So to follow up on the other video I just did about AEW coming into this partnership with the Owen Hart Foundation, well, they're going to be putting on a tournament in his honor, as well as, basically creating merchandise with his likeness on it, as well as adding him to the AEW video game and such, where the profits, part of the profits from the video game and the merchandise and everything will go to the Owen Hart Foundation, and a majority of the profits, the proceedings if you will go to the Owen Hart Foundation from when they put on the tournament. Now, with that said, of course, during the video I also talked about how with some positive you have negative, and of course the negative was some people coming out and saying that Vince McMahon should sue AEW for doing this because this is disgusting on AEW's part. AEW is wrong for doing this, and Vince should sue them for everything they got, and da. We know what I see there. Not only do I see somebody that, like a lot of fans, does not want to admit that AEW is trying to be something new and fresh, and basically a bigger platform, or a big platform, if not just as big of a platform as WWE, for talent to perform on with a little bit more freedom. But what I see also in the long run, just by the fact that when you read some of these tweets, or you see how they spam, certain live streams, like I've seen them do with Just Alex, you know what I see? I don't see WWE marks. I don't see people that come out and say, oh, AEW is just WCW 2.0 with a little bit of ECW 2.0 sprinkled in for variety, for good measure. No. You know what I see? I see something a lot of us deal with here on YouTube, if not anywhere. I see trolls. I see nothing more than trolls who look at the fact that a lot of us are happy this is something that we never thought was going to occur, but it now is. I see nothing but trolls coming on and going like, ooh, I'm going to rain on that parade. I'm going to say this and that because they don't understand that wrestling's fake. So, that's all they're doing. They're trolls. They are trolls. And everybody that reads these comments should know that. And I think they do. But that's all they are. And even if they're not trolls, obviously these WWE marks are people that refuse to acknowledge AEW as being something different. And they, like I said, they see it as WCW 2.0 with a little bit of ECW 2.0 sprinkled in for good measure. Even if they're those kind of guys, here's the thing. They have to realize that if Vince McMahon wanted to sue for any kind of tournament, if you will, one night or two night, whatever you want to call it, being put on in the memory of somebody that used to work for his company, then he would have done it a long time ago. Yeah, he would have done it a long time ago. I mean, when Andre the Giant passed away, you cannot tell me there were not several, if not many, independent wrestling promotions in this country, around the world, and most importantly in places like France and the UK. You can't tell me they didn't put on maybe a battle royal or a tournament in his memory. You can't tell me they didn't do that, because they did. And if Vince wanted to, hearing about those tournaments going on, he could have sued them if he wanted to. He could have sued them because Andre the Giant was mostly known as a main attraction for the WWF, WWE if you will. So he could have easily done that, but he didn't. What about Brian Pillman? When Brian Pillman passed, we started getting memorial tournaments for him in the Cincinnati, Ohio area, if not around the state of Ohio, and other places in the upper Midwest. If Vince wanted to, he could have sued them, but he didn't. And what about places like WXW or other places outside of them that did Yokozuna memorial tournaments or nights of remembrance and all that, tribute shows? Vince could have easily sued them, but he didn't. And what about anytime maybe AAA or CMLL down in Mexico decide, hey, we want to put on a tribute show for Eddie Guerrero or a tournament for Eddie Guerrero? Do you think, honestly, Vince wouldn't have seen an opportunity to sue them when they would do something like that? Of course he would, but he didn't. the fact of the matter is Vince had many opportunities in the past, 27 years, 25 years to do this, to do something like that, and he didn't. He could have done it, like I said, anytime someone here in the States, in France or UK, put on an Andre the Giant tribute show or battle royal or tournament, he could have done a thing. Same with Brian Pillman. Anytime any promotions around the upper Midwest and mostly in the Cincinnati, Ohio area and other parts of Ohio put on a tribute show or a tournament, for Brian Pillman, he could have sued them. Same with Yokozuna. Anytime somebody put a Yokozuna memorial tournament on or tribute show or whatever, he could have sued them, but he never did. He never did. And again, just like what I said, Eddie Guerrero, if anybody here in the States, mostly in Mexico, AAA, where Eddie made a name for himself, before coming up to the States in ECW and WCW, if they felt like, hey, we're gonna put on a tournament or a tribute show for Eddie, Vince could have easily sued them, but he didn't. So for people to come out and have this thought process, this inkling that Vince could easily sue AEW for doing this is dumb. It is moronic. Because Vince would not have a legal leg to step on. I mean, yes, Vince does own WCW. He does own Stampede Wrestling and the libraries contained within them. That's what he owns. And yes, part of that footage that he owns has Owen in it. There's no doubt. But is he going to sue because AEW wants to do something? No. And mostly he's not going to do it because of the fact that the last time he was involved in a legal battle when it came to Owen Hart and what happened to him, whether anybody wants to admit it or not, Martha Hart came this close to sending his butt to jail for good. I mean, if you thought the steroid trials that they're going to talk about on Dark Side of the Ring later next month, almost put Vince in jail, this was almost like the second or third time that happened. And he knows it. So unless he wants to spend the rest of his life in jail, but trying to do a false lawsuit, a false claim of, hey, I'm suing these people for this, when he doesn't have the right to, then I hope he likes pinstripe. I hope he likes orange jumpsuits and everything, because that's what he'll be wearing for the rest of his life. Which is why I don't think he'll do anything. I mean, I'm sure he's heard about it. I'm sure he's heard about this. I mean, who hasn't? I'm sure he's heard about it. It's plastered all over the place. But I don't think he'll do anything, because I think people like his daughter Stephanie, his son-in-law Vince, his son-in-law Triple H, Paul Levesque, his son Shane, even freaking Kevin Dunn and Bruce Pritchard will be like, Vince, don't do anything, unless you want to end up, in the big house. And that's it. That's all they have to do is just talk to him and say, look, this is their own thing. Let them do their own thing. Just don't do anything. Don't touch it. Don't try to sue or anything. Just leave it be. And hopefully they do. Hopefully they do talk sense to him, if not already have talked sense to him. Because again, what legal leg would he have to stand on? Okay? He would not have a legal leg to stand on. Unless, like I said, he wants to spend the rest of his life behind bars. Because if he tries to sue this, then that's all the evidence Martha Hart would need to prove he's guilty for what happened to her husband. That's all she would need. That's all she would need. So I don't think Vince will do anything, to jeopardize not only the WWE himself, but the WWE in general. I don't think he'll do anything. So for anybody that thinks this is just Tony Khan one-upping Vince once again, you need to get your head out of your rear. Because this is something that WWE and Vince McMahon had years, 20 years, if you will, to do themselves, to extend the olive branch themselves. They had 20 years to do it themselves, but they never did. Never once did they do it. I mean, what did they do? What did they do besides what? Put an Owen Hart DVD set out? Yeah, and where did that land them? Back in court, from what I understand. I think it landed them back in court because of the fact that Martha did not like that. I mean, why do you think, in a sense, we have not seen a likeness of Owen that much in games? You know, as far as WWE is concerned. Because Martha will not allow it. And again, like I said, that King of Hearts DVD set, which I own a copy of, you know, and we were all glad to see it come out. Thinking, oh, this is the first step of getting him in the Hall of Fame. Guess what? Again, like I said, it almost took them, if not indeed, took him to court. Because Martha was upset about that. And you got to remember this. Martha is still has a division with the Hart family in some ways. There are some members of the Hart family that do side with her and, you know, understand where she's coming from, and that's great. But there are some that don't. Some feel like, hey, you need to let this go. You need to basically, you know, swallow your pride and move on because it's what Owen would want. But Martha is not that kind of a person. I mean, she'll work. I mean, his thing, it's a surprise that she's even taking part of this. And maybe that's the first step in her, you know, healing, basically. That's the first step, if not the second step, in her having the healing process start to really, you know, come full circle. But the thing is, no one expected her to be, you know, involved in wrestling anymore. But with this happening, this is probably, like I said, the next step in fully coming full circle and letting that healing process, you know, commence and be as it should be. But for people to come out and say that Vince McMahon should sue, that what AEW is doing is disgusting, like I said, you need to get your head out of your rear. Because what they're doing is not disgusting. They're paying tribute to one of the best in the business. Something that WWE only did one night of, the night after he died. That's all they did, was one night. And what else did, and what did we get after that? Nothing. Except, like I said, the King of Hearts DVD. And that's it. But in general, folks, you know, when it comes to people coming out and saying Vince should do this, Vince should do that, it's disgusting what AEW is doing, you got to remember, it's one, if not two people, or two kinds of people. It's trolls, and it's also people that refuse to acknowledge that AEW is its own thing because they think it's an inside job at WWE, and all they see is WCW 2.0 with a little bit of ECW 2.0 sprinkled in for variety. That's all they see. So again, the kind of people that make these kind of remarks are either trolls, that have, as the old saying goes, have no life outside of the house. And two, if you will, it's people that, you know, still, you know, refuse to acknowledge AEW as its own thing. You know, because they feel it's an inside job. And here's the thing about one of those places, TWR, before I close things up here. Even they have to admit that this is pretty damn good by AEW. And at least this hopefully will make them acknowledge, okay, maybe AEW is not an inside job. Because if it was, Martha Stewart, believe it or not Martha Stewart, but Martha Hart. Did I say Stewart a lot in here? I do apologize. But Martha Hart, if you will, would definitely do all the research she can to make sure there's no connection to them. To WWE, that is. So if I said Martha Stewart doing this, I do apologize. I meant to say Martha Hart. But you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm coming from. But yeah, basically, you know, if this was an inside job by WWE, Martha would do a lot of research to see whether or not that was true. And if she found out that it was, then guess what? She would not want anything to do with them because of the connection. But it's not, because AEW is its own thing. And that's what these people, these trolls, and these people that would believe that all AEW is WCW 2.0 with ECW 2.0 sprinkled in for good measure and variety, as well as they also think it's an inside job. You know, they have to realize none of that is true, and this is the evidence here to prove it. This is the evidence, right here. You know, I mean, honestly, let's say if what TWR is suspecting is true, the only way that TWR and people like them that believe this kind of nonsense could be proven right is that if in 2 nights at Arthur Ashe Stadium on Dynamite, as soon as the intro and everything is done, and everything, you get that aerial view of the stadium as well as the ring in the middle, and all of a sudden you hear Stephanie McMahon's music hit. That's the only way you're going to find out whether or not that is, legit, what TWR is saying. Is if you see Stephanie McMahon walk down that aisle, music hitting or not, and her stepping in that ring, if that moment was to happen, that would blow people's minds. Because one, it would validate maybe what TWR and others like them are saying, but then again, it would blow people's minds because it would show how far, how far and willing someone like Tony Khan is willing to go to basically obliterate that forbidden door. But again, that's the only way people like TWR and others that believe the same thing could be proven right, but they won't. They won't. Because it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Because this moment, this deal here that I talked about in the previous video is the proof needed to basically make those kind of people eat their words. Now, is it going to make them, totally be quiet and non-negative about AEW? Of course not. It's not going to make them non-negative and totally quiet about AEW. If anything, it's just going to be like, okay, so AEW is not an inside job at WWE, but I still see them as WCW 2.0 and with a little bit of ECW 2.0 sprinkled in for variety. Is it still going to give them to, continue, talking about that? Absolutely. Absolutely. But in closing, guys, the kind of people that come out here that show nothing but negative disrespect, that basically feel that Vince should go out and sue because it's disgusting, because all AEW is trying to do is prove the dominance over WWE, and Tony Khan's just doing this to up Vince McMahon again, and da-da-da-da-da-da. In closing, let's just put it this way. Everybody has a right to their opinions, but you look at these people in 2 ways, 2 categories. You're either dealing with trolls, or you're dealing with people that believe that either AEW is an inside job by WWE, or AEW is just trying to be WCW 2.0. That's it. But let me know what you guys think. Comment down below, live chat during the premiere, like the video, check out the Teespring store, check me out at my podcast, the BW Rosa's Discussion, at all your favorite podcast locations except for Pandora. And that's about it, guys. Let me know what your thoughts are, and I'm out.